Morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. This is Heather coming to you live from my dining room with tips, tricks, tools, tactics, and training on how to blow up your pretty on the outside life. Today is the 8th of October, and what I'd like to say to you is time is fluid, and right now I'm moving into two different areas. One, how to understand what you're dealing with, and two, perhaps buying books that are about narcissistic abuse and recovery while you're still trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And one of the reasons being is that we consistently underestimate what we're dealing with. And one of the things I didn't understand was that in giving up a lot of control, I didn't actually understand how much control I had given up. And in taking somebody else's skills, and giving them understanding that they had professional credentials and that I let them do certain things. Not only was it not me letting them do it, but they wanted to do it. And the reason that they wanted to do certain things was that they had a certain way of being that was much different from mine. And what I will tell you is that I had been married to the person that I turned into a husband. And what he was a global technology sales exec who was fluent in cross-cultural negotiations in about 10 different countries, including Thailand, Japan, China. Did he go to Korea? Yeah, he did. France, England, Germany, Canada, US. Oh, Israel, wait, that's 11. Anyway, a lot of different countries, many different business styles. And at the end of the day, it was always about, let's get the deal done. Let's know how to do it. And he was what I called a global technology schlepper. And I would frequently say, could you please do an interpretive dance at the meeting today? He would never do that. And he probably didn't even think that was funny. But what I didn't understand was that a lot of the management tactics, and he was used to managing 64 people across multiple continents, was about players and moving them on a board and achieving an objective. So when I had to run what I did, which is blowing everything up like an op, what I did was I underestimated, even though I was really smart, I underestimated how, his business skill in his 30-year career in the chessboard that is high-tech sales in publicly traded companies could also infiltrate accounting procedures in our life, and how there was no accounting for how he accounted for things on every level of the word accounting. And that for me, one of the hardest things to discover was that, in fact, not only was he capable of lying to me and doing things without my knowledge and then expecting that what's done in the dark stays in the dark. Well, luckily I had a lot of flashlights, and I come from this long line of women that have a lot of flashlights. And what I would like to say is, it's always good to have flashlights all over your house, especially in the event of a power outage. So I learned through various things that perhaps the concept of no accounting and accounting, there's no accounting for how somebody accounts, right? And this applies across the board in a relationship with somebody who's got a power over dynamic with you, who you think that their knowledge base and their job is more important than yours. And they want you to think that, and they're playing you, and they're playing you like a stringed instrument, and you play into it. It is not your fault because you are being played. So take yourself out of shame and self-blame and put yourself into the position of understanding that programs are running in you. And maybe you were raised to be really nice and not be conflictual. And maybe in conflict you did stand down. But right now I'm going to teach you how to stand up in conflict. And the way you're going to do that is to never underestimate your opponent And know that if you're captured and you're in a POW camp, the only way you have any protections is if you're a prisoner of war from an army. But if you're a spy and you're taken behind enemy lines, you have no protection whatsoever. So if you're guilty of espionage, just know that you're not afforded the same protections under the rules of law. And based on the humanitarian principles that are supposed to be afforded to POWs, when you're branded a spy, you have none of those. So just understand that what you're dealing with is somebody that may be used to running things, and they may in fact be very used to moving pawns on a chessboard, and they may be used to you being quiet because they want you to be quiet. They know how to keep you quiet. And even though they're not maybe putting marks on your face, they're using subtle facial cues. They're using intimidation of their much bigger body, and maybe they know Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Muay Thai, for example. Maybe they just, I like the word eviscerate, it's such an interesting word. Maybe they just eviscerate you with words, or they excoriate you. I love words. I used to read the dictionary. I still do. Either way, I want you to buy this book, which has good words. Out of the Fog, Moving from Confusion to Clarity After Narcissistic Abuse. You can charge that up on Target.com or Amazon. You need to have your own email that is only known to you, and you need to be changing the passwords. You need the post office box. You need the bank account at a bank you don't bank at with the person that you may really need to leave in a way that allows you access to information that will come in handy when you litigate. You do need to run it like an op. The shelters call it a safety plan. And anybody that's going to hand you a pamphlet talks about executing on your safety plan. And there's another thing that I want you to Google. Google the wheel of domestic violence. That's all you have to do. You're erasing your tracks when you do this, or you can go check into the library and do it at the library. Whatever you need to do to get the information, just do it. Call a shelter, call the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and understand that some of the things you may have taken for granted in your pretty on the outside life, such as your own personal safety, financial abuse is actually considered domestic violence. And if you have given up control to somebody that has negotiating skills and credentials and knows what profit and losses are because they've done mergers and acquisitions, say, in a public company, just know that they really understand accounting from many different angles. And there's no accounting for how they might use accounting. So what I'd like you to do is get smarter than that and learn to think in a strategic manner. And even if you're a fluffy little elf like me who wears, these sorts of things like this, just know that once you learn, there are many different ways to achieve an objective, and that some of the best operatives are in fact the ones that would be least suspected of being an operative, like a fluffy little elf girl. You put that to work for you, and you do it before you leave, because some of the things that you're going to go up against when you turn your loving husband or your loving wife or your loving partner into a defendant means that all bets are off. There's no accounting for what they will do and how low they will stoop. So you need to stay in your integrity, and you need to never underestimate them. And what this means is that by virtue of the fact that they have been able to game you for so long, if they gamed a nice person like you, what is going to keep them from gaming their lawyer, the CPS or the DCF or whatever the thing is in wherever you live that governs whether you get access to your very own children or not? What else? You do have to get the pets out because those will be used by the person who stays in the house to control the cheese. And even if you have the order to vacate, they may not vacate, because if they vacate, you might get more control than them. And since they love control and they want to make it look like you're crackers and you're a liar, that you're a manipulator, better be capable of getting the pets out, because you may not be able to go home even if you have orders to vacate that are served when they get served. But you're going to be in a secure location far away that they don't know about, having left your phone behind, because they may be able to geolocate you, especially if you have an iPhone with that "where's my phone" thingy, and there's members of your family or their friends that might be able to see you. You're going to have one track phone that you have bought before you leave that you're using to call your very small team on, not from inside your house. And then you're going to have another track phone if you have kids, and you're going to use that for dedicated calls to call the person that used to be your loving husband, but you turned them into a defendant. And the moment they become the defendant, they're out to get you, and they're coming for you. And the way they're going to do it is also the same way you're doing it, via litigation. But because they have a different operating system, they're going to do it their way, which is all about control and domination. And they will use court, they will use their lawyer, they will use motions. And in my case, I filed, he didn't leave, he wouldn't leave. He's trying to wait me out. I had nowhere to go, and B, school was gonna start. I was at a friend's house and I was there for 3 weeks. And he didn't know how much money I had, but he knew that school was starting, that I really didn't have a place to be right in that area. And we co-owned a business, so there was a lot of moving pieces. So let's just say you should probably buy the coming out of the fog, moving from confusion to clarity after narcissistic abuse. You should buy that while you figure out what you're dealing with. And then I want you to think about the Danny Masterson case. And I want you to just look in the news and understand that this came to trial, but it went to trial a few years before. And that Bijou, Danny Masterson's wife, she had walked away from her career 8 years ago. And now she has to file on him. And she did it. And in the day that showed her picture up at the top of the Yoo-hoo thingy, it's her next to Danny. But then when you scroll down 3 stories below, it's Bijou has filed. So just understand that you're going to have to be really smart, and you're going to have to run it like an op, and you're going to have to outsmart the person whose mind doesn't work in the way yours does, and the way that they've been actually able to do some of this stuff that has gone on that you finally realize is real. It's because you, in a million years, would never think of doing some of these things. And you couldn't understand, you can't even conceive of it. So just read about Bijou and Danny and think about how Bijou Phillips married this guy and how he was able to compartmentalize things in such a way as in a million years she could have never conceived of him doing these things. Even though he had 2 trials, and it took till the 2nd trial and re-traumatizing his victims in not 1 but 2 trials using court, that he was in fact convicted. And even those great cast members and friends, Mila and Ashton, had written to that judge on his behalf. So just understand that there's many moving parts, and that your operating system might be geared towards getting the stain out of the shirt, the poop stain. Well, I'm going to say you bag up the poopy shirt you put it in a larger trash bag and you take out the trash in your life, in your head, and you come out of the confusion and you get into clarity, because it will save you. It will allow you to parent your children instead of having them taken away by court actions that are designed to wreck you, to discredit you, to completely ruin you in every possible way. And if you're a mother or father and you're going up against somebody who has these Kim Jong-il qualities that you come to know are real, expect that custody, the home, the pets, and the assets, it will all become a battlefield. And the more equipped you are to deal with things with situational awareness, which I keep referring to, you have to have your head on the swivel. You have to be clear, and you have to get clear before you leave. You may not need to go full paranoid, but it would be better to find out that you were wrong than to know you're right and not be able to prevail in either an actual trial, or you have to be willing to take it to trial and then see if they back down based on what you know, and what you've taken away in the form of records, documents, bills, paper. You need paper. Math and science are provable. Okay? So at the end of the day, realize how good you are. You are good and you are great. You can do this, but you need to know what you're dealing with. So look at Danny Masterson's case. Look at how he was able to do what he did. And with the Church of Scientology behind him and his castmates from that 70s show, he had a big spin machine and he was able to manipulate smart, nice people that are parents, including his own wife. So just chew on that. Don't be scared. And when you go to hire a litigator, if you're in a tiny little town, you have to go to a bigger town and you have to be willing to spend more money. And you need to make sure that the litigator that you hire isn't in a polluted pool in the court that you have to go to, because a lot of the lawyers fraternize. They know each other's styles. And if you're super weak and the person who's the defendant is super strong, the deck may be stacked against you from the get and you might not even know it. So if you're in a tiny little town and you're part hedgehog and part pug, you might not even know exactly how dark and nasty it is. But once you find it out, you throw the shitty shirt in the bag, you put it in another bag, and you take out the trash, okay? In the meantime, you do things like get sleep, nourish yourself. If you have coping strategies that aren't serving you, change your coping strategies and understand that if you do throw back a glass of wine and you yell at your husband and then you make him a defendant, he's gonna say you're a crazy drunk who manipulates the children. Maybe you just drank one glass too many and you yelled at him in front of your family because that's the only place you felt safe enough to do that. Just expect that they'll call your family. They'll subpoena your sisters. So just know what you're dealing with. Know that you're better than that. Know that math and science in the end will help you. And that if there's any chance that they might say that you're using alcohol or substances, that you have enough hair that you do forensic hair testing, and it can go back a year. And then you pay to get your own hair tested, your beautiful hair, and the chain of command is such that it goes to your lawyer. And your lawyer just piles those up and has them for when the accusations start flying, because they will fly. And so will you. You will fly far above it, and you will be free, and you will be out of the fog. this person, Melanie Tonya Evans. Go look her up. She has online classes. She has a free mini course you can do where you download a workbook. It can help you start thinking about this. She tells her own story and she's on YouTube. Melanie Tonya Evans. Go check her out, okay? And Dana Morningstar. Beautiful name. Great book. Read it now before you file, okay? All right. In the meantime, what do I always say? Love yourself, baby. And don't be scared. You just have to know that you can do it. You don't go low except when you fly in to execute on your op. And then it's with the cover of darkness and your night vision goggles and your very small team and your trusted people. Okay? So, just know you can do it. If you need to, you blow out before you have all the stuff you need. You call, I'd like you to consider calling the National Domestic Violence Hotline. I'd like you to consider calling a shelter, their hotline. If it's not in your town, go one town over. Just get some stuff off your chest, as I said yesterday, and start really taking your health seriously, your children's health and your pet's health. And at the cellular level, being around somebody who's willing to do this under the radar stuff, all while saying they love you, that's very cumulative damage. And it's your divine right to live in joy and health in your best form, being loved and respected and honored. It starts with you and it continues with you. Okay? So love yourself and get present. And even if it means just going like this and saying, I'm here. I'm here for myself. I'm here for my children. Write your kids' names down and put them on a sticky note at your computer. And every time you access your computer, look at their names and think about how much greatness you want them to have and be and achieve. And propel yourself forward knowing that you can do it and knowing that little hedgehog pug hybrids like me did it. Okay? All right. See you soon. Bye.